Hey guys, today I'm with Mandy Reeve, who's a transformational coach. How are you doing, Mandy?
I'm really good, thanks, Matt.
Glad to have you on the call. So tell us a little bit about what you do and why you do it.
Well, so I help women move beyond their quarter life crisis to live a more passionate and successful life on their own terms. Part of why I did that is because I feel I had three of my own quarter life crises
Hmm.
and didn't know where to go for help. And it took me a while to find out the right people to go to help me live a life that I'm now more passionate and feel as successful on my own terms.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, describe to us a little bit, like high level, about what you were feeling during those quarter life crises and like why they came up.
Yeah, so quarter life crisis usually stems from a transition into adulthood and you lose your stability. So you start questioning a lot. So it was around, what am I doing with my life? Who am I now? And so there was a lot of uncertainty and stress, but not sure where it was coming from.
Hmm.
And a lack of direction and kind of just trying to work out where I fitted in the world again.
Right. I think that's a really common thing. Like, I feel like everyone must go through that in some. Like, I've definitely gone through that. Um,
Yeah.
so from what I understand, you help people who are experiencing quarter life crises.
Yeah. And help them move beyond that. So help them rediscover who they are
Hmm.
and then help them start taking action towards the life that they want to live.
Perfect. Yeah. And what exactly happens? Like what's the process that you have that you take them through, and what's like the transformation that they become after they work with you?
So I take them back to basics. So we start exploring their values, their strengths and weaknesses, and then get a bit into what they're currently passionate about. We can look back in terms of past stuff like that they might remember that they did as a child, but they
Mhm.
still do now, and they couldn't quite put it together.
Right.
Also around the values, like rediscovering those and then realizing that their life doesn't actually align with their values,
Right.
which can cause that massive kind of
Alignment.
misalignment. So bringing the alignment back in.
Okay, gotcha. And,
Yeah.
and why is it that so many of us fall out of touch with our values and fall out of alignment? Why is that so common?
Ooh. I don't really know, but I think it's almost like our parents' generation went through that midlife crisis. Like it's slightly different in the fact that they feel that they're running out of time and that they've got all these things they still want to do. But I feel like as a generation, like we've started questioning things more.
Mm.
And the things that our parents went and did are not necessarily what we want from life. Um,
For sure.
and I think we're almost a generation that wants more freedom and wants more choice and has a lot more choice. And because of social media and the internet, it's opened up the world a lot more for us. So I
Yeah.
think it's coming more into play.
Yeah, I think whenever I'm comparing myself to like my grandpa or something, or he's trying to understand me, it's always like
Yeah.
a conversation between like, yeah, like he had a lot figured out a lot earlier, but he only had like three different options, and it's like a totally different kind of experience between like the world that he was in and the world my parents were in and the world that I'm in. Like choices, we have way more choices. So and that gets overwhelming. And that's why like it helps to have someone kind of guide you through and walk you through certain choices.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, as you say, they had a lack of choices, but because of those lack of choices, they chose one and they went with it, but it didn't necessarily make them happy. Like,
Hmm.
I have my parents ask me, like, why do you feel like you need to go after the things that make you happy? And it's like, well, what's the point of life
Yeah.
if you're doing things just to make money or
Right.
have no purpose? Like, I think there's a lot around our generation going more after what our purpose is and giving back to communities and different bits
Totally.
and
Yeah.
pieces.
So what tends to be the solution? Like, what tends to be like, where do people find this? Like, what kinds of jobs are they, or like careers are they making for themselves after they work with you? Are they like deciding to become like nonprofit like activists, or like what's going on?
Not so much that kind of area, but just finding something that they're passionate about and probably have a bit more freedom in their life. So they a lot do go down their own business path because that's a way that they can create more freedom and choose their own hours and not necessarily have to work for somebody else.
Right.
It's interesting in terms of, I always feel like each generation paves the way for the next generation, and like my mind has just gone blank, but the generation after millennials, they reckon 86% of them will end up owning their own business. And I kind of feel like each generation has kind of, and especially millennials in terms of freedom and choice and digital nomad type things, have led that way to getting.
It's interesting. You mentioned a lot about generations, and I've noticed in my own life, like the people that I see as mentors for my like lifestyle and my business growth. They're actually all coming from the generation that's 10 years older than me. They're not like, I'm not jumping like 20 years, 30 years. And I'm not doing this deliberately either, but every one of my personal mentors is about 10 years older than me. And like, I wasn't planning on having that happen. It just kind of happened. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I suppose you find people that are doing things that are similar to the areas where you're working and working out what you can learn from them, right? So
Right.
they're always a bit ahead of where you're at. And from an age perspective, 5 to 10 years is probably about right.
Right, exactly. Because if it's too far, then I feel like you don't quite understand where I'm coming from in terms of like you're just ahead of me enough, and you're just older than me enough to have the ability to relate to like the world that I grew up in, but not too far ahead of me where like you don't understand it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad we got to like theorize a little bit about generations, because that's always fun to do. um,
Yeah.
yeah. So someone wants to work with you. Well, who exactly should work with you, and how can they get in touch? What's your website?
So I'm reachable on www.mandyreeve.com. You can check me out there. I have a bit about my story on there, as well as a booking form. So I offer a free 30-minute online discovery session where I try to work out if we're a fit and if I can help. For me, relationships are super important. So it's, for me, on the offset, I like to know that the person feels comfortable with me and that we can actually make some progress together.
Nice.
I like to work with people who are ready to make change. So they're sick of being stuck in the overwhelm and actually have made a decision to take action and move forward.
Yeah. You like to work with action takers and people who are sick.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, well, anything else you want to share before we wrap it up?
I suppose for me, part of why I'm also so passionate about what I do is I stayed in that overwhelm for such a long period of time and I've interviewed a lot of women that wait till crisis point hits before they actually make a decision about changing their lives. And it doesn't need to be like that. It's like, and it's probably better if you make that decision before that kind of crisis point hits, right? Because it's a lot further to come up.
Like anticipating the crisis, anticipating. Right.
It's like if you start questioning like who I am, like what's my purpose in life, where do I want to head? That's when.
Yeah, you're kind
of. Let's take action.
Right, and then before it gets too hard to take action, and then you're like kind of, you got to dig yourself out of a hole.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate your time, and look forward to chatting more and keeping in touch.
Cool.